Now, people are wondering, saying, oh, the World Cup's not that great because England have been knocked out. But when we're looking at England, the reason why they're knocked out, I mean, you can get into all different things why England have become knocked out. But I just want to hone in on some countries that you might not be familiar with, we might not step foot in, but a country called Costa Rica and also another country called Chile. Now, these two countries are very small. Okay, they don't have that many people in them. Costa Rica has approximately 5 million people within it, which is tiny. I mean, that's slightly more than the city of London. Now, Costa Rica was the team that everyone perceived to be the whipping boys within England's group. So everyone has perceived that Costa Rica would be the team that would get knocked out. Why? Because you've got great footballing nations in Italy, England, and Uruguay. Even though Uruguay is small, they've got some really world-class players. However, Costa Rica flipped the script and is the first team to qualify out of that group. Now stay with me. Now the difference between England and Costa Rica could be many things. For one, the players in the England team get a lot more than the players in Costa Rica's team. For example, Wayne Rooney earned 300,000 before tax every single week. Okay? Context. He gets over £1 million every month. Context. You've got other players within the England team who get over £100,000 per week. Context. People in the Costa Rica team don't play in the big leagues. They will not get big money. Context. You will only be desperate for something if you are in need. The thing with England is that even though England lost the game, they're going back to a 5-star hotel. When they get back on the plane, they're going back to their Lamborghinis, their Ferraris, their pools by at home. They don't even have to go out to get to the pools. They've got pools at home. They've got multiple cars. It's not a case where I'm going to drive to work. It's firstly, what car am I going to take to work? It's a case where they just got to go like that. And they've got 200,000 sitting on their wrist. It's a case where we're saying, when we're dealing with desperation, you can't really be desperate and seek the things if you've got loads of things. Okay? The reason why God sometimes strips out things and takes away is because it's a case where it's in, can you still hear me?
Yes. No,
wonderful.
Fix it up.
Where it's in sometimes, you can't hear me?
Go ahead, just keep
It's a case where it's in sometimes God takes things away from us because he needs to make sure we're in a place of need. Why do we need to be in a place of need? Because only in that place of need do we become desperate for him. If we look back at our Christianity and realize the time where God really has moved for us, it's a case where it's in God has probably moved for us. Thank you so much. It's a case where it's in God has probably moved for us the most when we've had lack, when we've had little, when we have had need. It's a case where it's in God is not going to move on your behalf if you're not desperate for him, if you're not expecting something from him, if you don't require God to do something, and whether it's a life or death situation. The reason being why Christianity is not seeing things in the Western world, in America, in England, why? Because we have too much stuff. We've got too many zeros in our bank account. We've got too many rings on. We've got too many cards in our pockets. We've got too many clothes to wear. We've got too many things to put in our hair. We've got too much weave, too much makeup. We've got too much things. So we actually are not desperate for God. Why? Because we actually don't have a need. We actually don't have a need. We don't have a need. We don't have a need. We don't need God to be able to eat. Why? Because there's already food in our fridge. We don't need God to have warmth in our home. Why? Because the gas and electricity bill are already paid. We actually do not need God. Why? Because we are within our limits. We actually do not need to pray for anything for us to be cool for a week. Which is why England, unfortunately, got knocked out. Why? Because they're not in a case where they have a need. They don't have a need. They don't have a need. Costa Rica have a need.
Yes.
Moving on to Chile. Chile, they're going crazy in Chile. They're showing all kinds of adverts. Now, Chile is the nation where there were miners that were stuck on the ground for several days. And you have those individuals on one advert saying that we've already faced death before, so this group of death ain't nothing to us. So Chile are playing against Spain. Now, Spain's context were the world champions. And I say were because they were the first or second team to be knocked out of the World Cup. Now, they were the world champions. They won the European Championship 2 times, back to back. They won the European Championship in 2008. They won the World Cup in 2010. They won the European Championships in 2012. Now, when Chile met Spain, it was messy. And people assumed that Spain would rip them, kill them, finish them off. But the case was in Chile won 2-0. Why? Because Chile had a need. Chile are not multi-millionaires. They're not getting paid $200,000 a week, unlike Iker Casillas and unlike some of their boys. Why? Because they're playing in a much more expensive league. And it's a case where in the Chilean team, They are desperate. They want the ball. Why? Because this is their moment to shine.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we just need to have that mindset.
Oh.
But it's difficult, and we pray against hardship.
Oh my
We
God.
pray that things don't happen to us. And we don't understand that we need to count it all joy, having entered various trials, knowing that the trying of our faith produces patience. And it's once we're in those various trials, do we learn certain things that we talk about but don't practice? Things like self-control, things like peace, things like joy, things like that talks about in the Bible that we only know by theory, but we don't know by practice. Why? Because we haven't had a need to know by practice.
My God.
Some of us haven't been at a point where we need God to move within the hour.
My God.
I need you, God, to move within the hour. Within the hour. If you leave it a minute too late, it's too late. But we're in a place of too much abundance, a place of too much wealth. Now the Bible says in 1 Samuel, now the boy Samuel ministered to the Lord before Eli. And the word of the Lord was rare in those days. There was no widespread revelation. The word of the Lord was rare in those days.
That's
there
right.
was no widespread revelation.
That's right.
The word of the Lord had not come publicly. The word of the Lord was not out there. People did not have a hunger or thirst to hear what God had to say. Why? Because much like 21st century, to a certain extent, they did not care.
My God.
They did not care.